Mr. Bean might seem like a lovable guy, but he's done some questionable things. From stealing a $36 million art piece to pretending to be a doctor, he's not as innocent as he might appear. So that got me wondering, if Mr. Bean was charged for all his crimes throughout all his movies, how long would he end up in jail for? Well, let's find out. The first Mr. Bean movie, aptly titled Bean, starts off pretty innocent, but it doesn't take long before an encounter at the airport starts Mr. Bean's run-in with the law. He spots a police officer and, noticing his gun, pretends to have one himself. What were you thinking, Mr. Bean? This leads to the police becoming very suspicious, and they begin to chase down Mr. Bean. Now, running away from the cops would earn our beloved Bean a felony reckless evading charge, which carries fines up to $10,000 and a year imprisonment. Mr. Bean could also be charged for resisting arrest, carrying another fine of $1,100 and a potential 12 months jail sentence. Mr. Bean's next crime comes when he's in the bathroom and wets his pants. Trying to dry it, he stands up against the hand dryer when someone using the stall next to him spots him. Embarrassed, he grabs the light bulb and pretends to be an inspector. Impersonating a public officer carries a potential fine of $12,000 or 2 years imprisonment. He also manages to break the light bulb, so we can add another $20. Mr. Bean's next crime is a bit more crazy. While attending a 4D cinema, he falls asleep because the ride isn't as exciting as he hoped for. So to try and make things more exciting, he breaks into the control room and meddles with the ride settings. The ride speeds up, leading to 4 people being propelled out their seats. Mr. Bean even shoves a man next to him down the stairs. Why, you may ask? I don't even know. For this, Mr. Bean would be charged with 4 counts of grievous bodily harm, leading to imprisonment of up to 40 years. And he would also be charged with assault, which could lead to an $18,000 fine and 18 months imprisonment. Moving on in the movie, when Mr. Bean first sees the movie's iconic artwork Whistling Mother, a real painting valued at over $36 million, being Mr. Bean, he sneezes on the painting. In a panic, he tries to rub his snot off, smearing the painting with blue ink. Vandalism of this caliber would lead Mr. Bean to be charged with up to 10 years in jail. And if that's not bad enough, Mr. Bean tries to save his reputation by stealing the painting so no one would find out. Mr. Bean would be charged with grand larceny, which carries a penalty of up to 5 years imprisonment. Now, like any guilty thief, Mr. Bean tries to solve his mistakes by breaking into the museum at night. He sneaks past the security officer and finds where he stored his painting, repairing the artifact with tools he brought to make it look brand new again. If caught trespassing, Mr. Bean could face over 1 year in jail. Things step up another notch later in the movie when Mr. Bean visits a hospital. Mr. Bean finds a stethoscope lying on the ground, and being his silly self, puts it on and pretends to be a doctor. Not only would he most likely be charged with trespassing, but he would also be charged with using the name, title and symbol of a health practitioner while not being registered. A crime which could result in a $60,000 fine and up to 3 years imprisonment. And while Mr. Bean's middle finger escapade at the end of the film isn't illegal, it does get an honorable mention. So for the first movie alone, Mr. Bean is facing a $101,020 fine and up to 65.5 years in prison. But if you're a Mr. Bean fan, you know that this isn't where Mr. Bean's shenanigans stop. Mr. Bean's Holiday is the sequel to the first Mr. Bean film, and it's also filled with some questionable actions by Mr. Bean. So let's start a new tally for this next film. Not even 10 minutes into the film, Mr. Bean causes major traffic delays in Paris due to his jaywalking, a crime which can lead to, wait for it, a $4 fine. I know, off to a great start. But judging by the chaos caused by his jaywalking, he could also be charged with a public nuisance charge, which carries a $1,330 fine or 6 months imprisonment. Later in the movie, Mr. Bean misses his train and befriends a young boy who has lost his dad. They decide to hop on the next train, however they don't purchase a ticket for that specific train, meaning he would be fined $70 for a falsified or usurped transport ticket. But the crime is much bigger than that. Mr. Bean gets accused of kidnapping the boy he befriended, not shortly after, which carries a potential fine of 14 years imprisonment. And considering that his face was plastered all over the news, and he still doesn't turn himself in at the nearest local police station, he faces another charge for resisting arrest, which could carry up to 6 months jail time. Throughout the next portion of the film, Mr. Bean does a few minor crimes which I'll quickly go over now. In an attempt to make money, he busks on the street of Paris without a permit, he steals a bike in an attempt to chase after a chicken that stole his bus ticket. When he reaches the owner of the chicken's house, he trespasses while trying to search for the chicken. Yeah, good luck to you, Mr. Bean, trying to find your chicken here. He trespasses onto the set of a commercial, and even then pretends to be one of the actors. And finally, he is seen speeding down the streets of Paris, as he doesn't want to be late for the Cannes Film Festival. Speaking of the Cannes Film Festival, this is where the movie reaches its peak. Mr. Bean, with the boy he supposedly kidnapped and a friend he met along the way, sneak into the film festival by pretending to be a famous celebrity family. This could lead to a charge of criminal imitation, which carries a $15,000 fine, and he could also be charged for trespassing again. Once they manage to get in, Mr. Bean sneaks into the cinema room to project the video he has been filming the whole holiday, which could lead to yet another trespassing charge. He also evades the security and decides to cause public nuisance when he climbs down from the projector box and hops over the audience to the stage. So for the second movie, Mr. Bean is looking at a $77,738 fine and up to 19.5 years in jail. So let's do a quick recap of Mr. Bean's worst crimes. Throughout both movies, he's run away from the police, resisted arrest, tampered with an amusement ride that saw people fly out of their seats and probably break some bones, broke into a museum, destroyed a $36 million painting, stole that painting, pretended to be a doctor, caused major traffic delays in Paris, stole a bike, broke into a random guy's house, potentially kidnapped a boy, became one of the most wanted people in Europe for kidnapping that boy, snuck onto a film set, and then snuck into one of the world's most prestigious film festivals. So if you add up the charges for all the crimes committed by Mr. Bean, in both movies, Mr. Bean is looking at a grand total fine of $178,758 and 85 years in jail. Who knew Mr. Bean was such a menace? Make sure to comment who I should investigate next for their crimes, and consider subscribing if you like this video.